Hi, Peter Charles here, Folk to Life Fly Fishing. And typically when you look at fly fishing videos on YouTube, we've always got our success stories, the big fish, the great casts, all that kind of good stuff. Well, today we're going to talk about a little disaster. I was out yesterday and I was going with the popper dropper rig again like I did in a previous video, but this time I had a heavily weighted point fly. It had both the tungsten bead and lead wraps. In order to support that, I went to a bigger popper. And I originally intended to go out with my NRX Plus 8-weight saltwater rod. Instead I took my old fiberglass rod. That in itself wasn't the problem. The problem was the line on the old fiberglass rod was this cheap generic taper, basic AFTMA rated 9-weight line. And it really did not have the mass in the front end of it to be able to handle that rig, that large popper and the heavily weighted fly. I mean, once it was in the air, it was okay. But it didn't have the mass to roll it out cleanly. And because you couldn't roll it out cleanly, it's hard to get going. When you couldn't get it going, then you're fighting it. If you got it to go smoothly, it worked. But the margin for error was small. And there was tons of floating weeds, and eventually ended up giving up. So we'll get into, when this is over, we'll get into what I should be doing, and I'll probably get another video out on that in a little while to show the difference between a clumsy rig and a rig that is well put together and functioning properly. So let's get looking at the footage. So I'm having some fun today. I'm out with my old Blanchard fiberglass rod. This thing hasn't caught a fish in, oh, I don't know. This thing hasn't caught a fish in probably a few decades. The last time it got wet, the last time it's been on a river. Very awkward casting a popper with a weighted fly. This is the rig today. I've got a popper dropper set up, but the point fly is weighted, quite heavily weighted, and it's proving to be ugly to cast. So, which is not surprising. That popper is very, very hard to get out of the water with the weighted fly at the end. Learning some lessons here about the nature of the popper. Probably a slider style would be better than an actual popper when you're using a weighted fly. The weighted fly wants to kick around, and that's part of the problem. I'm giving up on false casting this rig. That combination of a weighted fly and the popper is a little nasty to cast. So I'm not going to get too gung-ho with trying to false cast. That's better. Yeah, no more false casting with this rig. Too ugly. That's the thing with casting a very clumsy rig like this. It's important to work out the best casting method to allow you to get it out there with the minimum of fuss, because you certainly don't want to be fighting your cast all day. So what I'm doing a big circle cast, getting it on the water, lifting up carefully, and then sending it on its way. So here's the rig, there's my popper, my little weighted streamer, and that's got a tungsten bead on it, so it really goes down fast. So this may be a fruitless day with all the weeds. I'm probably going to be spending most of my day doing this. If you have a trouble, you don't get a good roll cast or spay cast off, do it again. You've already fished this water, so don't worry about whipping it up. Yeah, that one should show on camera, the little gar pike coming up. So that one didn't roll out properly. So let's try it again. Once it starts to fumble on you, it gets really tough to get it out. There we go. Note to self, this rig is ugly to cast. I'd been better off with a slider rig, so the bobber side of it, call it the bobber side, the bobber fly, is a slider, not a popper. The difference I've found between an unweighted fly on the point and a weighted fly is that you can get the popper out of the water a lot easier without the weight. And with the weight, it's much tougher to get the popper out. It's really stuck in the water. And so I would not recommend a weighted fly on the end unless you're using something a slider style, which has a lot less wind resistance and water resistance. See, when you get it going, it works. Now, this is a waste of time. Okay, you can see if I had a weighted fly on the end of, say, a slider type popper, which goes through the water very smoothly, extracts very smoothly, and it will penetrate when you're casting it very smoothly, it probably would have worked just fine, even with that rig. Just the popper alone was enough to unbalance it. If I go out there with the airflow sniper line, which has a lot of mass compacted in the front, then rolling this out, even this rig, I'd be able to roll it out without problem and set it on its way. So if you're going to go with these really awkward to cast, awkward to extract type of rigs, you really need that high mass packed type of fly line, condensed fly line, where it's a short head with a lot of mass that's going to help you get it out of the water and help you get it on its way. And I was fighting that all day because the line just wasn't doing the job. And as I say, I could have done with a different design of popper fly to make my life easier, because those fish generally don't take the popper that often. They're usually more taking the point fly. In fact, I don't find them liking poppers all that much. It's always the point fly that gets the whack. So keep that in mind. If you're going to go out, you need the line like a bass bug line, the airflow sniper line, something like that with that mass in the front that's going to help you roll it out. And as I say, think about the relationship between the point fly and the popper fly. And you know, if you're going to have a heavy fly that's going to drag this whole thing down, you're going to start creating problems for yourself. So you better have a popper fly that's going to make your life easy. So there you go. There's a disaster story of what not to do. Cheers.